Hi, everybody. Welcome to our daily webinar. This is our webinar series, Staying Strong and Positive for Ourselves and Our Children. As you are coming in, please put your name and your location in the chat. We're all going to do the same. I'm Robyn Harvey. I'm the Director of Training and Technical Services for Be Strong Families. I'm from DeKalb. I'm going to write that. I'm going to give us just a few minutes just to do a little greeting. Make sure that you change your setting to everyone so that everybody can see where you're from. Okay, sorry, my dog barked. It threw me off completely. We have a little tiny puppy. All right, so we have Andrew from Minnesota, and we have Michelle here from Western New York, Betty from California, Wisconsin. And then we have my co-trainer here who's going to do a bulk of the work. This is Kareen Nunnally. And she is one of our senior training consultants, and she is from Chicago.
All right. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome.
We got Mrs. Zippy here now.
Yeah.
California. This is really great.
Yeah.
Aurora, hi Maria. You're just down the street from me.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, so if you didn't hear my announcement and you are just joining us, this is our webinar series, our daily webinar series. And if you could, please introduce yourself in the chat. First name and location, Pennsylvania, but my heart is in Wisconsin. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Andrew just put up a reminder in the chat too that there's all of our recordings from our webinars. They are housed on our website or on our YouTube page. So if you missed any of them, please go ahead and travel over there after the half hour is done. Somebody else from Eugene, Oregon. There's a whole group. Welcome.
And Callie just chimed in from Starkville.
Awesome. Starkville. I love Starkville.
Yeah. Terrence from Jackson, Mississippi. Hi, Terrence.
All right. Okay. So, you want to go backwards one second, Andrew? Sorry about that. So this week we have spent our time talking about human-centered child welfare and what that looks like and what we've been dreaming up together and what changes could occur once we all started focusing on the human beings that we're serving. Today, we have a treat because we have Kareen with us, and Kareen is one of our major trainers on this Communicating with Families workshop that we do. Our Communicating with Families workshop is a 4-hour workshop, and we talk about communication techniques, we talk about filters, we talk about barriers, we talk about ways to convey dignity and respect when we're talking with those people that we serve. So for the next 25 minutes, we're going to be talking about what we can do as parents and as people and as service providers to kind of up our game in communicating. Okay, Andrew, thank you. All right, so there's a couple ways to engage when you're ready to comment, and that's verbally. Please raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Then you'll need to unmute yourself if you're muted to be heard. Please be patient with us. Often our webinars have a large audience and we try to get to as many comments and raised hands as possible. Also, one of the major ways that we engage is typing in the chat. So if you want to answer any questions, please make sure, just like Andrew reminded us, to go to the drop-down menu and select the option for everybody. Otherwise, you're just chatting with Kareen, Robyn, and Andrew. All right, and we want your voice to be heard in the full space.
Yes.
Be Strong Families runs on agreements. The first one is speak from your own experience using I statements, talk about yourself. The golden rule, treat other people the way you want to be treated. Bring your full presence, no multitasking. It's only a half-an-hour webinar. Give yourself a treat and a break and some time just to relax and to participate in something fun and good for us. And then we don't take any breaks during the webinar. So if you need a minute take a minute. If you or your family have any needs, go ahead. Feel free to get up and take care of them and come back as soon as possible. If I could get everybody on here to write, I agree in the chat. I'm going to do the same. This really helps everybody see that together we have a collective commitment to keeping these agreements and keeping this space as emotionally safe as possible. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Robyn, for getting everything kind of getting us grounded in the space. And so, again, my name is Kareen Nunnally, and I'm your co-facilitator for today. And I want to thank you guys for joining us. Many of us are coming in through the lens of the work that we do, right? And we are working with families who need our support, and we're trying to build relationships with them. But oftentimes as service providers, how we communicate with our families can show up as a barrier, right? And us being able to develop the necessary necessary relationship to kind of understand what their needs are, understand who our families are, understand how to build partnership with them. And so the first question that we want to bring to the space is, what is good communication, right? What are some of the elements that you think are necessary when having good communication with just people in general, whether it's a client, your family member, your partner, your teammate, right? Okay, thanks, Laura. Respect, definitely. What else? What else? What other attributes are necessary when we're talking about good communication? What's important to you, or how do you show up, right? Mindfulness, I believe, is what you were typing, Laura. Thank you. All right. Yes, active listening, reciprocity. Okay. Awesome. What else?
And I saw someone say reflective listening too.
Reflective listening. I like that. Being attentive, sharing important information to keep everyone in the loop, eye contact, no multitasking. Yes, those are all really great things, right? Maintaining a positive attitude is important, right? Figuring out, how do I make a connection with this person is important, right? Patience, yes, Laura, especially with everybody. Having empathy, yeah, being respectful. Yes, we talked about that, definitely. And I think someone says acknowledging others communicating with you, whether it's verbally or non-verbally, because a lot of times, right, being respectful doesn't always mean we have to be verbally respected, but we can be non-verbally respected. We can show up in those ways as well, right?
And Kareen, I'd like to offer, I think that good communication is like a transmission of information from one person to the next with an understanding. Like, a lot of these are how to do that, but in its essence, communicating is the transfer of information from one person to the next.
Yes, definitely. Laura, thank you. You said being open to SESs and multiculturalism. I'd really like for you to expound on what SESs is for the audience and for myself, because we are always learning here. Kanwal, I saw you say listening.
So Laura, right? If you would raise your hand and we can take you off of mute.
Thank you. Socioeconomic status.
Oh,
okay. Yes. Thank you. All right. And she did raise her hand, Andrew.
Status, right. And multiculturalism and cultures, everybody, sees or understands things in a different way. We have to be open to learning new ways, and what means something to me might mean something different to you.
Definitely, definitely. Thanks so much, Laura, for chiming in.
Hey, Kareen, before you move on, I just want to kind of piggyback off of Laura's comment there, because that is a part of this training, Laura. We spend a lot of time looking at the surface meaning of words and then the perception and the deeper meaning of words.
Yes.
And how other cultures and other families and other people in general could interpret those words differently. So thanks for bringing that into the space.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. And it's making a connection piece, right? Because we're trying to make a connection to have a conversation, right? To find common ground, to find what are some common interests. And these are all the things that are necessary in helping us build a rapport. right? And the value, right, of having good communication is that we become aware, yes, Joanna, of the different family dynamics. And that can't happen until the space is there, you know, and able for us to have kind of like this ebb and flow, right? This two-way communication that we hope is going to take place in our time with our families. So as we move on to the next question, one of the things we want you to take the time to share and reflect on is think of share a story about a time when you felt understood or when you felt misunderstood, right? And it was a result of the good communication that occurred or challenges in the communication. If someone would like to raise their hand and share, that would be great. Thank you, Robyn. Thank you. I will share a story. I used to supervise a home relative program, and I found myself having some challenges with this one particular staff, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I caught her by herself after another incident, for lack of a better word. And I asked her, hey, what's going on? You know, and she told me, I was young in my career, in my early 30s. And she said, you always interrupt people when they're talking. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah. And I said, oh my God, I had no idea. I had no idea that I did that. And as a result of that, I became a little more mindful of making sure people told their story so that they could understand me, because I often felt like I was being misunderstood. And I realized it wasn't me. It wasn't me being misunderstood. It was me not holding the space and so forth and so on. So I hope that made sense. Heidi, you have your hand raised. If you wouldn't mind sharing, thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, hear you just great.
Mine's a little silly. So I was headed home from work one time, and I was picking up my partner, and we were headed somewhere. I don't even remember where, but I had just been at work all day, and I looked at him, and he was outside, and I said, oh, are you ready to go? Thinking like he wanted to get in the car and go, and so I didn't have time to do anything. And then later I was like, oh my gosh, I should have gone inside and used the bathroom, but you were so ready to go. He's like, what are you talking about? You told me get in the car, you're ready to go. And it was just like funny how we both thought the other one was in a hurry because, you know, we just had that one, we didn't, you know, it was just a weird, it was a funny miscommunication that we both heard, we both thought we were on the same page, and we were clearly not on the same page. He thought I was saying, get in the car, let's go. And I thought he was saying, yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's go right now. And we both could have used some time to not get in the car. So it was kind of funny how that turned out.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we appreciate the lighthearted story, right? Because that could have turned into a whole other situation for sure. Thanks so much for sharing. Is there anyone else who'd like to share and answer the question, right? A time when you felt understood because of the great communication or misunderstood because good communication did not exist. Anyone else? I'm sure we all have stories to share about not feeling heard, or we're thinking one thing and someone's like, no. Adrian, thanks so much. I see your hand is raised.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Let's see. Let's try and start my video. Sorry, we're starting and stopping it. Well, anyways, at one point in time, I was working and everything seemed fine. And then, oddly, the communication just kind of dropped. And I, obviously struck some sort of nerve with this person. And I had to really take my time and think it through, and I realized that ultimately when you're at work, you're in the same goal. Your goals are common. And so the next day I brought like a coffee as an icebreaker, and said something about, working for a common goal, and that we're all on the same team, and that, had there been, something intentional, that I would appreciate him bringing it up. And, it really just turned out that he had decided that we weren't on the same goals, and it wasn't really that anybody did anything or said anything. There was no intentional action or anything like that. In the community that I live in Los Angeles, there's a lot of competition, and people are always trying to one-up each other and figure out like what the other person's game is. I'll put game in quotes. And by walking in and just saying, look, there's no game, there's no, like, I'm not doing anything. You see all my work. It's all very visual to you. Your job is to, reconcile it. So it can't be that difficult, to see what the game is, because there isn't one. So if there's a red flag or I did something wrong, let me know. But I think ultimately we're just both trying to get to the same place, and you're just not seeing it. And that broke the ice, and he was able to like open his paperwork and point to something that was just really strange, and I started laughing. And he goes, "What?" And I go, "You're on the wrong date." That was it. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes when you work with people, they're so interested in finding a problem. And a lot of times it's not a problem, really. It's just the dynamic of life, right? It's normal stuff that just doesn't get attended to, like someone was talking about, they're normal every day, right?
Yeah.
And so really just having that communication and that ability to come at somebody with like, hey, look, I'm humble. If I did something wrong, please let me know, because it wasn't intentional. I wasn't trying to do anything wrong, and I can't figure out what I did or said physically, to create the problem. And
Thank you so much, Adrienne, for sharing. I mean, you touched on definitely. You touched on so many things that we actually speak to in our training, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the filters that you brought up in your example. Betty even in the chat talks about her situation, which speaks to the intentionality, right? She said she was in second grade, moved to LA from Mexico, was in the process of relearning English. And, she calls her friend Patty Fatty, right? And she's given a red card, because it's the idea or the assumption is that it was intentional, and it wasn't her intent. She was just trying to call her friend. And, the teacher probably thought she was calling her out of calling her a bad name, and there was a consequence as a result of that. So we can definitely see when, despite our attempts to try to communicate, we can be misunderstood for a variety of reasons. And as we go to the next slide, we want to talk about communication, listening, and relationships, right? So the first question is, and it goes back to, both of your examples, all of the examples, right? That there are filters that affect how we listen, right? When we get information, we're processing that information, and there are a lot of filters that go into how that information is, for lack of a better word, dumped into our brains, right? So what are some filters that you guys can come up with in terms of, affecting how we listen? Let's use the chat. What are some filters? Definitely.
For me, one of my filters is like the background noise of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I have the ability to sit and listen to your words, or am I cooking dinner, answering emails, and trying to sweep the floor all while you're trying to talk to me?
Right, like multitasking, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. What are some other filters that people can think of? I know for me, one is physical environment, meaning if I'm in an environment where I'm really cold, I am not listening. My mind is focused on, okay, how do I get warm? In the, pre-COVID world, summertime air conditioning, I knew I needed to have a jacket or a sweater or something with me, because that would often get in the way of, if I was in a meeting or whatever, my ability to listen to what was being said.
There's a couple of comments, Kareen. So there's
Thank you.
cultural, diminishing behavior, unfocused, deadlines. Heidi offered how comfortable, safe I feel with a person. If I have my guard up, I tend to not always see positive intent. Andrew offered thinking about how we'll respond before the person's even done speaking. Yes, Andrew.
Yeah,
Kim
definitely.
Jennings, preconceived notions. Betty, how we were raised, cultural, traditional, and morals.
Yeah.
Janine, the type of speaker who's speaking. Yes, all of those.
Yes,
Very
all of those.
good filter.
Definitely. Yeah, our values, right, get in the way of how we listen. Our experiences, so our past experiences, some of us are, hey, if it sounds like a duck, looks like a duck, it's a duck. I don't care what it is you're trying to put in front of me. There are other things like assumptions, right? So again, that speaks to one of our examples that were shared, right? An assumption was made about a particular situation, and they completely went on responding on the assumption, and then found out like, oh my God, that was completely wrong. Like that was totally off, right? Our prejudices and biases are other things that get in the way of our ability to affect how we listen. Anything else? Interests, right? I'm not into hockey. So if someone's talking about hockey, I may hear every other word, right? But if you talk about music, you've got my attention, right? So interests is another kind of filter. Are there any other kind of filters people can think of that get in the way or affect how we listen? Any other filters?
I think for me, time of day, mood, whether I'm hungry, whether I'm thirsty.
Oh, yes.
What's going on in my life at that moment? Am I mentally distracted, not just with tasks, but if there's so much on my mind that I can't focus? Betty said selective listening based on your personal interests. Yep. Environment. D. Williams offered previous communication experiences with a particular individual. The type of, yep. Okay, great. Adrian offered how the other person is presenting can really distract. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because if I were to talk like this for the remaining of this training, you'd be like, oh my God, can we get Robyn to talk? And I'm glad, Robyn, you talked about the being hungry. I think some of us can appreciate the hangry emotions that when we're in that hangry mode, right? Definitely. So our next, go ahead, Robyn.
One more thing, D. Williams just wanted to say body language too.
Yeah.
And Lawan offered the inability to relate. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Thanks so much, everybody. And so our next question is, how does good communication affect our relationships? How does good communication affect our relationships? What are your thoughts about that? Because if we're saying good communication is beneficial, right? What impact are we hoping it's going to have on the relationships that we have or that we're building? Can we get someone's hand raised? Because one of the things I know is good communication for sure affects our relationship because it opens the space for people to trust, right? And that's one of the big issues when we're talking about building relationships is this ability to trust. Lawan said it's important in building a rapport with families because it's important for a healthy relationship. Yeah, we want a healthy relationship with our families. They've experienced enough dysfunction, right? So we can't add to the pot, add other elements of dysfunction to the pot. Andrew said feelings of validation. Yes, definitely. Definitely. And for families, especially in child welfare, we want to definitely provide opportunities when we're looking through a strength-based lens for feelings of validation, right? Kim said trust. Yes, definitely, right. The other effect is that we have an opportunity for people to be open and honest about what they want to share when there's good communication, right? Adrian says it allows for future communication. Yes, because we want the conversations to continue, right? We want to get more information. We want to really get to know our families and understand who the people are. Definitely. Yes, Lamont, you've got to put yourself in a space of willing to listen, because that will also affect our relationships, definitely. Janine, my most successful relationships are those that prioritize communication, especially when there's a need to confront an issue or be vulnerable, right? And so that's the challenge sometimes, right, of having difficult conversations. And so that's an element that we also talk about in the full training, is communicating with families and these strategies to have difficult conversations, because we're having difficult conversations with people about some things that they are not readily willing to share or have a lot of feelings or emotions. You know, they're still dealing with the shame, blame, and trust that's, you know, continuously put in their face about their situation. So definitely. Let's see, Joanna said, it is important to follow up with what was said. For example, following up with phone calls, sharing resources and other, yes, because that affects the relationship. And again, we want the relationship to continue. We want the communication to continue, to go deeper, definitely. Betty said, when they remember something you shared and bring it up during certain circumstances, that makes them understand you better as a person. Yes. And when they do that, what do we realize? They were listening. When they do that, what do we realize? They're trusting us. They're taking the information we're sharing and they're really thinking about it. They're self-reflecting on it, or they're acting on it, right? So those are all of the benefits of the good communication. And that definitely has an impact on our relationship, because now we feel like we're working together and we're getting rid of those barriers, the us and them, right? We often represent the they, and we're not trying to be the they with our families, right? We're trying to be in partnership and in support of our families. Definitely. Anything else? Anything else? I think another way that it affects our relationship is that it helps us understand who we are and who the people are who we're dealing with, right? It helps us understand kind of when we provide that space for people to be open and honest and transparent, we no longer look at them as this person who was referred to us on an intake sheet, right? But this is like, wow, this mom has really strong values as it relates to education, and I can connect with her on that. Or, you know, this dad has a really strong work ethic, and I can really value that and build on that in building the relationship. So thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
What a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I hope that this will pique a little bit of interest, and maybe some of you will check out our Communicating with Families workshop. This is a registration-based workshop, and you can find all the information about it at our website, www.bestrongfamilies.com. If you go to the events, there'll be a listing of it. So Andrea has put up the poll. If you'd be so kind to answer that. Tomorrow, we're going to have a taste of a more perfect union cafe. So remember, that is the intersection where parenting and social justice meet. It's a great cafe. It's going to be led by some of our wonderful parent leaders. So please come and join that. Next week, we're going to be focusing again on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have Samantha Peterson and Andrew Hitchcock. Andrew's going to be in front of the camera.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be about supplementing what children learn in school. And then we have our Spanish on March. I'm assuming that is Tuesday, Andrew, but I don't know.
Yes.
Wednesday is back to English. That's going to be learning about and celebrating others with Kathy. Kathy Wolf. And then our Spanish webinar on Thursday, and on Friday, we'll have another taste of a more perfect union. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Our last one. Just another QR code reminding you that the parent engagement through a lens of equity workshop is coming up on September 15th. The exciting news about this is a lot of you have registered. So as I'm going through registration, I'm seeing a lot of your names and a lot of your agencies. That's really, really great.
Yeah.
So hopefully more of you, it could be a time where you guys could actually see each other face to face. It is online, but you'll get to see. Webinars, we don't get to see each other. You only get to see me and Kareen. All right, so if you're interested in that, you can click the QR, or there is a clickable link in the chat from Andrew on that.
Yeah.
On behalf of myself and Kareen and Andrew and everybody at Be Strong Families, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. It's
Yes.
such a pleasure spending time with you.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest.